Good evening, YouTube. This is a Maineprepper, and tonight we're going to be looking at the Condor TNT pouch. This is a very unique piece of gear, and I'm going to show you why in a second when we open it. I paid about $20 for this plus some tax. Got it from one of the vendors at the mini mall up here. As with all pieces of gear, I own this, and I bought it for myself because it has many of the features I'm looking for my EDC bag. And I will show you this loaded up later. Right now, we're going to look through all of the components of this bag in detail, just as I think you would if you were looking it over in the store. I like it, bottom line up front. For 20 bucks, it's very well constructed. A lot of the Condor gear has been impressing me. I won't give them a blank check because I haven't seen all their stuff, but what I have seen and looked at, it looks very well built. All right, this pouch is about 8 by 12 inches. I know it says, 8 by 11 inches. It says a little bit less than that in the brochure, but it's actually 8 by 11 by just about 2 inches laying down. That's your outside dimensions, okay? Internal component's going to be a little smaller. We'll show you that in a second. First of all, the front side of the bag. We have 3 separate MOLLE loops. And there are 6 points across, and the coverage is exactly 5 inches from here to here. So if you have a piece of gear, but if it's shorter than that, it can span one of the smaller ones. Interestingly, there is a 3-inch by 10-inch Velcro station on the top for your patches if necessary. Also, I've seen some people, they will have a Velcro backed pouch of some sort you can put on there. And while that is handy for quick change, I don't recommend it so much because it tends to pull loose, so I wouldn't do that. All right. There are 2 side strap holding tabs here, and these, they're there for a reason. We're going to cover that in a minute, but we'll flip this over now and we'll look at the back side. This is nice too because you have plastic D-rings here at the top, which you can use for additional attachment options, or you can use standard MOLLE web type weaving. And there are 4 rows, and these have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stations as well. So there are 4 rows, close together 2, 6 across. And these straps, this is nice because especially when you're dealing with limited space on your gear or odd points, you can actually slide these attaching tabs out and move them over where they're needed, or take them off entirely if you don't need all 4. Comes with 4, and they weave through your MOLLE, and they have a standard button type snap on them. It's a 1-inch wide, and it's very thick. If you can see this, I'll hold that up for the camera. It's double thick, and I like that. Double thick. And there's an example of the stitching. It's machine stitched, and it's very good. Stitching looks pretty good. I'm impressed with all the stitching on this bag. In fact, if you look at the stitching on the webbing, very robust there, and also the stitching here, very nicely done machine stitching. All right. It comes in black, multicam, olive drab, and sorry, that's backwards, and I believe it's Marpad they have it. If not, they should. All right, that was right. Okay, let me pull that off and leave it aside for a moment. Okay, now let's open the bag up. At the top, we have 2 zipper pulls. These are the newer type zippers, which are enclosed. That's really nice because if you have the open type old zippers, they tend to get kind of dirty. Let me show you an example of one of those in just a second here. Here is a much cheaper flimsy type bag, and you can see the open zipper on that, and that tends to get very dirty. It's gummed up and comes apart easier. So this is rather new on a lot of gear. The zipper pulls are, these can be taken off if you need. This plastic comes apart. They're just snapped on, and you can change this out for your own paracord if you like. I will probably do that later. All right, to open it up, we just open these straps, and you'll find out why those are there, and it's quite genius. When you pull the zippers all the way down, the zippers move easily, and they come all the way around so that this will open up. Now, this piece of gear attached to your web gear when you open it up, has two cords which are adjustable here by this sliding lock, as you can see, and you undo the knot. So you could have this fall all the way flat. However, in this configuration, if you mounted it to the front of your gear, it would lay down and you could literally just pop this open, do a quick map check. This is a 7-inch by 11-inch plastic sleeve, and it is removable by Velcro. And let's have a look at this first. It's a map sleeve, and it's not entirely waterproof, but it is essentially going to protect your map and allow it to not get all gummed up and boogered up. And you could, being a very not too thick but not too thin plastic on there, you could ostensibly wipe it down, use alcohol markers on there if you had a map in here. And it is Velcro shut, and there are pull tabs to help you pull this apart, open it up, and put your map inside. All right, let's fold that up and set it aside. And just to show you again, it mounted right here to this large Velcro strap, Velcro patch rather. All right, looking at the side that lays down, here's the front. All right, here's the side that lays down. There is a zippered pouch here on the top, and you can reach inside. And there's nothing else inside the zippered pouch. There's a bit of nylon, almost like a waterproofing here, but it doesn't appear to be entirely waterproof. But that's nice as well, because it will keep some moisture from getting on whatever you put into this pouch. And the zipper on this is an open type, because this is designed to be closed up for most of the time you're using it. All right. Inside, there are stretchy. These have stretch, and this is going to be great later because I'm going to load this bag up and show you. These are MOLLE width, all right? We can see for the strap. You could put your MOLLE something on there, any sort of pouch or container if you like. And then these open straps here run various widths. The biggest of them is 3.5 inches, and the others are 2 inches each. So this is great if you have a piece of gear that you want to put in here, and I'm going to show you some options. Again, this is a stretchy material, and so are these loops, stretchy material, and that's great. All right, looking on this side of the bag now, I'm going to swivel this around so it's easier to see. A pouch as well, not zippered, but it does have some nylon. That's going to be handy because this part is going to be against your gear and your body. All right. And it has the same configuration of stretchy loops, except these are all just 2 inches apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with some smaller ones. And if you'll notice these here, great for pins or something similar. Again, I'm going to load this up in a minute so we can have a look at it and see exactly what it does. And then, of course, here you could actually, if you wanted to, untie and remove this if you didn't think you wanted to have this feature. I'm going to show it to you in a minute for something other than just a map case to give you some ideas on the versatility of this. Again, if you're just using it in the map case mode and you've got it on the front of your gear, you would put these two straps on, leave the zippers down. Whenever you need to do map check, you would just flip this down and look at your map. That's pretty handy because especially when you get tired, you're doing a lot more map checks, I find. So it's right there. Because it's just about 2 inches thick, you could ostensibly put it on the front of your magazine pouches on the front of your chest rig. I do want to caution you about putting too much gear on there and just loading yourself out forward. While it seems like a good idea, the first time you have to get in a prone position, you're going to feel like a turtle laying on its back. You're going to be rolling around and not stable, and you're not going to get as much of your body in contact with the ground, which is not only going to throw off your marksmanship, but it's also going to make you a bit more of a target, and we want to avoid that at all costs. All right, in just a second, you're going to see this completely loaded up, and I'm going to give you some ideas on why this is not just a map case, but it also has other uses as well. All right, now I've loaded it and I've had to move the camera up a little bit to get a slightly higher angle so that we can have a look inside the bag here. I put it inside of my U.S. Marine Corps ILBE Assault, which I did a video up here at the top. You can go have a look. I don't like the bag. I downed it essentially, and so I'm buying another bag. One of the things I don't like is that you have to attach everything on the outside. I'd rather have a lot of external pockets on it than that. And this really only has one external zipper other than the main compartment. That's not quite enough because, and I'm going to cover that in just a second, there's a good reason for it. What I've done is I've put this loosely in here, and that's how I'll carry it. It will be inside my EDC bag, and it'll be a separate component on the inside, not the outside. I'm a very big believer on keeping your gear slick on the outside, less stuff to hang up on the bushes and the trees. Let me set that down over there. All right, now I have the bag loaded, and so we're going to open it up and have a look. I like the idea of having a bag that has a lot of compartments in it because it helps you stay organized. If you remember, we talked about the psychology of being in a survival situation, and part of that psychology is that we get overwhelmed. Our stress creates this white noise in front of our face, in front of our mind, and we can't really focus. So things that were easy, like simple math or reading your map, things that you maybe haven't practiced a lot either, are going to be extremely difficult. That's why it's important to get out, familiarize yourself with your gear, and get out and work with it now and then. I took my stuff out to the woods and laid it out, and I discovered quick, fast, and in a hurry that I was getting a mess. And every time I needed something, I had to go digging around in some pocket. Here, a lot of the small bits and pieces that you're going to need will be right there in front of you. So that's it as a concept. I'm going to go into it in detail. Another part of the concept, though, is to remember that because we're under all this stress and because of the psychology of things, we have a tendency sometimes to maybe unpack a little too much. And you have to remember that when you're in a survival situation and you don't know exactly what's going on around you, you don't have the luxury of being like at a campsite where you can just spread everything out like a gypsy camp and you don't have to worry about if somebody comes up. In our case, if we need to move, we have two choices. Pack it up and go, or run away and leave it. And this allows you the opportunity to slap it shut and stick it in the bag. Otherwise, you're scurrying around for the little bits. When you're out working in the field, you're going to be working on all sorts of little things, and you're going to find it handy to have the tools of the trade, as it were, close to hand. And so this is by no means all of the tools that I carry, but this is some. Now this I have in here because I'm going to be putting a regular map in, but I won't be using it in map case mode. The map will probably be in a pocket where I can get to it. I usually will carry it if I have my chest rig on there. If not, I'll carry it someplace where it's easily available. I'm not really a big fan of sticking things in my pants pocket or cargo pocket because it tends to rub a hole in your leg. If you do have a pouch like this with a map in it, be advised putting it in your cargo pocket, you will rub a hole in that, or you'll rub the map smooth in a spot. All right, I'm going to set the garment aside for a minute because it'll only be in there notionally until I get to the field. In the back compartment, I've got medicine and my hand sanitizer. Firm believer in using hand sanitizer out in the field because you don't want to get germs into your mouth. And if you're going to be cooking food or anything else, you want to keep your hands clean. You go to the bathroom, you want to use this. If you don't, you use this, after you go to the bathroom, especially if you go number 2, the problem you're going to have is, or use something like a soap to wash your hands, something that has the ability to kill bacteria and germs and fecal matter. You are going to be ingesting that at some point in the day. You rub your eye with fecal matter on your hand, and you're going to get a nasty infection, and there's going to be no hospital. All right. I need to take allergy medicine sometimes. It depends on where you are. And if you're moving into a new environment, you may want to have some of these allergy pills because you're going to be more susceptible to the pollen and things that you're not used to. All right. Pens and pencils. A pencil is good because you can write on paper with it and it will not run in the rain. I have a Sharpie marker as well as a ballpoint pen, and the thing I like about a Sharpie is you can write on anything with it unless it's wet, and then it tends to not want to write. One of the uses for a Sharpie pen, if you get stung by something and you want to make sure it's not spreading, you draw a circle around there, and if the next morning you get up and it's outside of that circle, you know you have an infection going. All right. Here's some more allergy pills behind that. Some water purification tablets. Try to carry a lot of those around. Dental floss. USB cable for my solar charger, and this has it's an 800 milliamp battery. I try to keep it charged, and you'll notice I have the solar panel turned down. That's because these have a shelf life and they also have a use life. After about 400 charges, this thing no longer is effective. But back to here. Toothbrush wrapped up in a plastic bag, because why are you going to clean your teeth if you have something dirty to clean them with? Some chapstick, very important. You don't want to, a little chapped lips will turn into raw lips, which will turn into infections if you're not careful. Clove oil, it has a lot of medicinal properties to it, and if you have some really nasty tasting water because you've been using these, which taste a little bit like iodine, this will help you have a familiar taste of clove or clover. Clove oil has a cinnamon type flavor to it. All right, here's my Bear Grylls, which I did a review on earlier, and that is here at the top of the video. And some fingernail clippers. And you may not think that's a big deal after a couple of days, but after a couple of weeks, you do want to trim your fangs down, or your claws, as it were, because you're going to have a messy, you're going to get dirt up under there, and you want to keep them clean, because that's just going to transfer into your food and things that you're gathering. I like these little, I get these for about $1.50, $2 on eBay. These are the medium ones, and these are the small ones. And they have a rubber O-ring around the top, which you can see there. Right? And that keeps the contents somewhat waterproof. And I'll put things like fishing gear, fishing weights, etc. in here. In this case, I've got seasoning, salt, and baking soda. You don't want to carry too much stuff in the field, so you'll see a lot of smallish things being carried, because big things start to add up, and you have to be mindful of your load limit. I'm a very strong guy, and 70 pounds is tipping what I want to haul on my back. And after you add in all the stuff you're going to carry, you're going to be sorry you have too many big things, and you wind up throwing them away. All right. Lighter and a fire starter, and I also have another fire starter on my knife, and I have another fire starter in my rucksack. Why so many sources of fire? Fire is going to be one of the most important additions to your new life out in the bush when you're trying to operate. Tincture of iodine. I may go with a smaller bottle if I can find it. This is a bit more than I need. Iodine has a multitude of uses, but not the least of which being to prevent infections and to kill things off. If you get a little cut or a nick, don't be a He-Man about it. You want to treat that right away, okay? Get this out, get something clean, or just dab a little bit on there, just put a little drop on your finger or wherever you cut yourself. Back pouch here. Paper, write in the rain paper. You may say, why? What are you taking notes on? Well, your mind is not going to be operating the way it normally does, all right? When you get out in the field, your mind is going to be all over the place because of that white noise I talked about. That's why we have to have something we can take notes with to help us remember things. And so, paper. So don't discount the use of paper, but don't get a big giant tablet. Get a small one. I like to write in the rain because using a pencil to write on here, it will hold up if it gets wet. If you use ink, not so much. The ink will run, although the paper will stay viable. It won't rot. Okay. I've got another dry seal bag in here, and I've got several of these throughout my gear. This is great because if it does start to really pour down, I can stick my electronics, which I don't want to get wet, which would be my Garmin at least, in there. And if I have a cell phone, that'll go in as well. And this has an aggressive type seal. We'll cover that in another video about waterproofing gear and the various options that are available to you. I've got a pocket atlas so that if I lose everything else and lose my comma, and those of you that are following the book, this is similar to what Tom is using. And last but not least, in the bag is this awesome little piece of gear, which is a edible wild plants field guide. I do want to point out something in here. It not only points out what you can eat, but it also has poisonous plants. So pay attention to the purple bars if you get this, because I was walking around and I didn't pay attention, and it's a good thing I didn't find any of these poisonous ones and stick them in your mouth. On that note, and while I got you here, a real quick little tip. If you're out in the wild and you find something, you don't know what it is, first of all, see if the animals are eating it. Now, that's not the first thing you look for and the only thing. That's one thing. If the animals are not eating it, it doesn't mean it's bad for you, but it may be something you want to steer clear of, especially if you have other sources and options. Second thing you want to do is you want to do a test. You want to take a little bit and rub it on the back of your hand and watch your hand. If it starts itching, don't eat it. If you rub it then on a softer part of your body, let's say under your arm, not a lot, just a little spot, and it starts to itch, you may not want to eat it. All right, because that's your body, your externals of your body are telling you it's rejecting it. If that doesn't cause a reaction, the next thing you want to do is you want to take it and give it a couple of minutes for your skin to react. Okay, give it a couple of minutes and rub it on your inside of your lip. I was out as a role player for Robin Sage, and I saw some berries in the field, and I went, oh, cool. And I took one, I cracked it open, and I rubbed it on the bottom of my lip, just like I had been taught. I put it on my hand, I didn't have a reaction. I put it, I think, on my wrist or underarm, no reaction. Then I rubbed a little bit on the inside of my mouth. Oh my God, my mouth swelled up like I don't know what. And I thought, good God, I'm glad I didn't take a bite of that. And then I noticed none of the animals out there seemed to be eating them, except some of the birds. So you've heard the maxim sometimes. Well, if the monkeys are eating it, so can you. Well, there aren't any monkeys out there in the Uri National Forest, and at least other than myself, probably the only orangutan in the whole forest, me. Okay, so here, or primate as they say it. E8, primate, okay. And a little common sense. And they give you some of this, avoid areas that have been heavily sprayed with herbicide, of course, obviously. Okay, folks, this has been the Maineprepper with my review of the Condor TNT bag. I like it. Hmm.